and you know what? I think it worked out for Aaron Hicks. That ball is gone. Second grand slam of the night for the Yankees. Hicks goes right on right, and he was right to do so.
The call on the Yes Network is the Yankees hit 2 grand slams and a 16-0 win over the Pirates. Just 16-0. Their largest shutout win in more than 60 years. Aaron Judge hit one of those slams, joining Ruth, Maris, and Mantle as the only players in Yankee history with 30 home runs in their first 80 games of the season. The Mets rallied to tie things up in the 9th inning before scoring 5 in the 10th to beat the Reds 8-3. Good enough for the Mets' 5th win this season when trailing in the 9th or later. They're now a perfect 6-0 in extra inning games, the only remaining unbeaten team in extras. And the Browns, as we've been talking about, agreed to trade quarterback Baker Mayfield to the Panthers on Wednesday for a 2024 conditional draft pick. It can turn into a 4th-round pick depending on playing time. Carolina will pay just under $5 million of Mayfield's salary, while the Browns will pay a little over $10 million. SportsCenter, brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club's 6-blade razor brings noticeably smooth shaves with 6 stainless steel blades for swift hair removal and a lubricating strip that keeps things smooth. Dollar Shave Club razors are sold at dollarshaveclub.com or in stores.
The best thing for Baker Mayfield is to find a landing spot where he can go out there and showcase what he can do.
The trade has happened. Baker Mayfield has been moved by the Cleveland Browns
to the Panthers in exchange for a conditional draft pick.
He had us believing that Odell Beckham was barbecue chicken.
Ride with me on this one. We're in the time machine. We're going back to 2018, and I had told you that the guy drafted number 1 and the guy drafted number 3 were going to end up on the same roster one day.
A long national nightmare is over in the NFL. The nightmare continues for these two guys, though, because I'm still here. It's Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max Allen on In for Max, presented by Progressive Insurance. I'll tell you what, guys, a lot of people want to comment, react, talk about this Baker Mayfield trade. Imagine the reaction in Cleveland will be one way. I'm curious about the reaction in Carolina. I have a friend of mine who, she is a diehard Panthers fan, and she's livid, furious. She hates the trade. She almost is like, I'm done with the Panthers. You know how fans do that all the time. The thread yesterday was hysterical, just reading it, the passion. I sent it to Steele. He saw it. Well, she just doesn't like Baker. She doesn't like the direction of the franchise. Feels like this is just another, reach in the dark kind of thing. And, there's something about Baker Mayfield that people react one way or another. So let's get that reaction now. 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We go to Mike in Cleveland, who I'm sure will just, say nice things about Baker. Right, Mike?
I just want to go back to September 13th, 2021. When I called in and I told Keyshawn and Jay Will that Baker was a bum after that Kansas City game, and they vehemently defended him. And as long as you talk about week number, when he got hurt in week 3 and week 5, he threw for 305 yards against the Chargers, and then he made that tackle in week 17 with his shoulder. Baker is a bum, and he will be the new Jamie on the Progressive commercials in 2 years.
But wait, why is the dude a bum in 3 years in the National Football League, 4 years in the National Football League, and all of a sudden he's a bum because he had a rookie season with a bad coaching staff, and then he had to learn another coach that didn't know anything, and then he got Kevin Stefanski, goes to the playoffs, and then he gets hurt halfway through the season, back and forth, in and out of the lineup, and now the dude's a bum. I don't. Fans are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Do you follow the history of the individual player and the circumstances, Jay, of why that player wind up in that situation? But you calling him a bum when in 2020 he led your damn team to the playoffs, and then last year he was hurt.
Key, but you and I are in the deep end, and we understand those type of nuances with the game, right? Because you and I have had different coaching staffs. Like, we've had a lot of different things that have happened to us, so we can understand that. From the fans' perspective, though, when you get drafted with the first pick in the draft, people expect those kind of lofty expectations. And when you don't meet that, especially when we see all the errant passes, when we see that Cleveland has had one of the best O-lines. When we see the tandem from the running back position, when we see some of the wide receivers that they have.
Okay, so I hear you. I hear you.
You know what I mean?
I hear you, but I'm going to give you two names.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you two names, Alan Hahn. All right?
Give them to me. Yeah.
Hugh Jackson.
I hear you.
You're blaming the franchise.
Freddie Kitchens.
Freddie Kitchens.
You're blaming the franchise.
Stop.
You're
So
saying this is a franchise malpractice issue. Well, when he got Stefanski, how did things go?
Yeah, that's the 2 years burned out of 4.
But
burned, completely burned.
This is what
All right,
happens.
so wait. With that logic, then now who's a teammate of his, Sam Darnold, you could say the same thing, couldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
Adam
And I've said the same thing many times over. You dealing with the New York Jets, Hahn, and I know you cringe because you like the Jets and that's your team and all that sort of stuff. But it's the same thing. But at least Baker Mayfield got a chance with Kevin Stefanski. He got a real opportunity. Sam never got a real opportunity.
But Hahn,
he never had a competent
that's
head
fair.
coach.
But then Key, he all right. So he gets the opportunity. He has a year. They go to the playoffs. Then how come everything we heard out of that locker room is no one wanted to follow him? That he became a divisive figure there. That he was somebody that his teammates didn't even respect. That's a problem too.
Different though. Now we talking about something different, Jay. Right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about on the field. We're talking about personality issues. When you are essentially part of a team or a unit that runs one of the most beloved players in a locker room away in OBJ, people going to start to look at you sideways because now the pressure is on your ass. Okay? So if Baker Mayfield comes out in 2021 and he's dealing and willing and all of a sudden they rolling and they back in the playoffs and he's not hurt and OBJ is going on about his business, then everybody's like, okay, cool. But when you stack the deck the way that he did, Jay, and it stayed hurt and it didn't pan out, now people gonna paint it and look at it differently.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, he talked about that on You Never Know, You Know What I Mean, the podcast, right? Where he pretty much said, when I was in college and dudes weren't making the type of money that they were making now in the league, I can say crazy things, angry things, and he had to respond. And he was saying that, when you get to the league, some guys he felt like don't care as much about winning as they do about their money. And that rah-rah mentality doesn't really work. But what I will say to your point about both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, Key, is that at the end of the day, I hope that guys can bounce back. But it's hard to recover sometimes when you've been tainted by coaches, by the numerous cycle of coaches, the different schemes. It's hard when there is a narrative out there after 3 or 4 years that it almost becomes to a degree who you are. Mm-hmm. It's hard.
It is, and I had this conversation with our producer James Steele last night on our call. We were just having a conversation, and I was alluding to what you just said, Jay, about the perception, the narrative, and the way things are shaped in one's career. Mm-hmm. Is that when they start writing and talking about you, they can convince a fan base, and I say they, and I'm not picking on you, Hahn, but I'm just talking about media members with pens. They write stuff and say things, and the fan base reads that, and they start to believe that. It also has an influence, and it sounds crazy, but they also have an influence on owners as well as head coaches because they start listening and reading the noise and hearing all the trash. And it works both ways now. When we all of a sudden blow people up and put yeast on it and make them bigger than what they really are, even though they really is not as good, they become the highest paid. They become something different. That's why when you hear and you ask guys all the time, man, how good is he? And player tells you, man, he's not that good. He's not good at all. But we done put so much sugar on top that everything is so sweet with that player. We now have that player positioned to be the guy. And it's vice versa. We got players positioned to be bad guys as well.
I will say to you, Key, that is a big part of the machine that covers sports. I don't deny any of that at all. It is a big, certainly part of it. Let's get more reaction from people, though. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776 on this trade, Baker Mayfield to the Carolina Panthers. Let's go to North Carolina, and we talk with guys Knuckles. It's a great intro, Knuckles.
What up, Knucks?
I mean, you got to be ready, man. Knuckles wasn't there.
Knuckles.
I was so excited for Knuckles. Instead, we go to Maryland. Let's talk to Dave. Dave.
What's going on, fellas?
What up,
Good
D?
morning.
Hey, listen, this is a very simple equation here. If you look at the stats, they both played 4 years in the league. Okay, Sam Darnold was terrible with the Jets. He gets a fresh start in Carolina. He was so bad that he got replaced by Cam Newton. Cam Newton's pumping gas right now, and Sam Darnold will be following him out the door next year. So Carolina gets Baker Mayfield on the cheap because the Browns are covering most of the salary. If you're a Carolina fan, you have to love this trade because you knew you couldn't win with Sam Darnold. If you look at the stats, his rating is better, his touchdowns to pass interceptions is better. If we're talking about the locker room, clearly that's an issue. But I'm sure they're going to sit him down, and Baker is smart enough to know that he's got to tone it down, and I think he wants a fresh opportunity, and he's getting that. Now, is he going to be a Pro Bowler this year? Probably not, but he's definitely an upgrade of Sam Darnold. Anybody could look at the stats and look at the production on the field. And Han, if you followed him as a Jets, you know how bad he was, how horrible he was. Okay,
Yeah, his rookie year was his best year. And after that, it just fell off the table, and that's obviously been the concern for him. Thank you, Dave.
Well, first of all, I don't think Cam Newton is pumping no gas, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's a different.
Because if he is, something is wrong.
Financially, right.
Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are about the same right now in their careers. The one thing that Baker had was Kevin Stefanski that 1 year in 2020, where Sam Darnold hasn't had really any competent head coach stability except for the first handful of games last year where we saw Sam show flashes of why he was selected so high by the Jets. So I don't want to get into the statistical side of things. Statistics doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. Can this dude play, period? I don't care that he threw for 400 yards. I don't care that he threw for 300 yards. I don't care. Can he play damn football? That's all I care about. And I think if they both were in the same situation with good head coaching, they both could thrive, period.
Key, you are a wide receiver. You would know better than anybody. When you watch Baker Mayfield, do you say, I wouldn't mind him throwing me passes?
I wouldn't mind him throwing me balls at all. Have you seen my list?
From a lot of people.
Have you seen my list?
What highlights we watching though, Key? Because I've seen some highlights on the show.
I'm gonna always cringe when I see a bad quarterback make a bad mistake. I don't give a damn if it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. When they drop back and throw the ball to the other team, ill-advised, I'm gonna cringe. When Baker Mayfield could correct some stuff, no question about it. But I do believe that he is a decent quarterback. I think he's a starting quarterback when healthy in the National Football League.
Yeah.
You can win games. They've shown in 2020, you won games with him. You can win games with these quarterbacks, man.
How about this, Key? Where would you rank him? You know how you give like
he's at the bottom of the barrel now.
Yeah, I mean, but So even if he were healthy, like is he still towards the bottom of the barrel? He's a starting quarterback in the league, but is he still towards the bottom?
He's 20 on down.
Okay.
He's a starter 20 on down.
Okay.
He's a serviceable guy.
Serviceable guy.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
So disrespectful. He's serviceable.
That's not disrespectful.